Catalina to my left, and Mack Rhoades on the line with us on 365 Sports. Mack, there's no question fans are frustrated. How would you describe the feelings within the football program, and how do you approach a situation after what we saw or maybe did not see Saturday night?
Yeah, I think, grateful for our fans. We talked about it a week ago, and I think there was frustration, such a big game, and, we were still probably at the time 6,000 tickets short of, reaching a sellout, and, grateful for Todd Behringer and grateful for our fans to come out and sell it out and, really have a great environment. And so, you do all of that, people respond, people are excited, the night game, and then, we didn't play well. And so, I'd probably say that, frustration following the game within the program, within the athletic department was probably as high as it's been all season long. And, there've been some moments of frustration. We talked about it following the West Virginia game. I know that, Dave was really frustrated. I think you could see or see it, certainly visually, but also hear it, in his voice, the post-game press conference. Personally, I was frustrated. And that's not to take anything away from Kansas State. That's a really, really good football team. But we didn't come out and play well. And it showed. And nobody was happy about it, believe me.
There's no question a week ago, you were discussing the lack of ticket sales. They were lagging behind. A student group got behind what they wanted to call a blackout, and it seemed to gain a lot of momentum. And eventually it was a full throttle. And as you mentioned, Behringer bought a lot of tickets. Was there when you kind of called out the fans a little bit because the lagging ticket sales, were you frustrated with them, or were you just trying to get their attention? Because I think some of them might have gotten their feelings hurt.
Well, I mean this sincerely. If I hurt anybody's feelings, I certainly, am sorry about that. That's not our intent. It's not my intent, but I think it was to grab people's attention. This is a big game, and their presence, the importance of their presence is huge. Whether fans believe that or not, that's such a big part of it. You'll hear Scott Drew talk about, and this is why, we've been really intentional about the capacity of the pavilion, the energy or the lack of energy if your student athletes walk on out there onto the court or the football field, and it's not capacity, and it's not electric. And the head coach in the locker room can give the best all-time motivation speech, in their career. And nonetheless, if the team walks out there and it's not capacity and it's not sold out for a big game, that doesn't matter what type of motivational speech the head coach gives. And so, I think that's the part that, that's important, that our fans mean a lot. They mean a lot in terms of the success we have and providing that home field advantage. And, that was a big game. And unfortunately, again, it's on us that we didn't play well. But they provide such a big lift for us, that it's important that, we can have capacity crowds, at every game. And when we think about, the top 25 programs traditionally, when you think about the Blue Bloods, they're sold out all the time. Or a great majority of the time, no matter who they're playing. And, we want to build that here. I think you've heard me talk about, this needs to be a destination place. It needs to be a destination place for head coaches. It needs to be a destination place for staff. It needs to be a destination place for athletic directors, et cetera. And I think we're in the process of doing that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're in that process. I think, the national media and people around us, I think Fox thinks we're in that process and we're on that and we're on the way. But the fans coming out to our games are a big part of it. And so we need them. And again, I'm really, and I think I can say this on behalf of Coach Aranda because I believe he said it publicly as well. Really grateful for our fans showing up and selling out the Kansas State game.
Mack, the fan-led blackout kind of came up on you guys last week, and you pivoted and endorsed it and all that. How can you get out in front of those things in the future so that maybe you wouldn't have had to pivot during the week and deal with, well, why don't you have black uniforms? Well, we didn't have black uniforms. We did the rebrand and all these kind of simple things that maybe fans didn't know and expected on Saturday night.
Yeah, Paul, I think it's an interesting question, when you position it that way, getting out in front. I felt like when, we went through the rebrand process with Nike, the goal at the time, and I think it's still our goal, was to double down on our school colors. And when you think about blue bloods out there and some of the traditional schools that, year in, year out, they're nationally relevant, they're pretty true to their colors. And so we made that intentional decision to really double down on the green and gold. And, if you look at our licensing revenue, over the past years since we did that and doubled down on our school colors, licensing revenue certainly indicates that people have embraced it. It has been well received by our recruits, prospective student athletes, et cetera. So it's worked well. And I don't think there's anybody, that has a disdain for black. And, we've had, over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, some accent, one-off uniforms, but, foundationally, we're going to continue to be the double down on the green and gold. And, that's who we are, and that's what we want to be known for. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad fans got excited about the blackout, and we were able to do that. Is that why it sold out? I don't know. I would like to think that certainly maybe that, got some people excited, but it was also about, being at McLean Stadium, and they're supporting our football team in a really, really big game.
And Mack, I do think it's worth saying as well that not everybody took your comments or Joe Vaughn or anybody else, as, and so I think it just kind of depends on probably who you ask. I think a lot of people just saw a call to arms, basically, is what you guys were trying to do as well. So I think it's, like I said, kind of dependent on probably who you talk to there. But good to hear, some clarity, and good to hear you talk it out there. So I know this question will be inevitable. And I don't care so much about the uniforms, but I know this question will come up. So if anybody brings this up again about why don't we have black uniforms, would that be on the table at all anytime in the near future, or should people who are worried about that or want that just get that out of their mind for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I want to be really transparent on how I answer that. I think to say never, that's a long time.
Okay.
And, maybe there's a moment in time, and, I don't know if that's, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 7 years from now, when we feel really, really good about who we are, we've established ourselves, that we're not trying to be, use a gimmick to establish our brand, right? It's we have been predominantly, this green and gold. It's our school colors. And now, hey, you know what? We're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna throw in a black uniform, or whatever color that uniform is. And so, I wouldn't say never. Do I think it's going to happen tomorrow or next year? Probably not, because we're still on this path where we're really trying to emphasize and double down on the school colors and be nationally relevant and grow our brand that way. So I hope that answers the question. And, Craig, look, I appreciate your previous comment. I don't think I'd be doing my job as leader of this athletics program if, I wasn't challenging myself, and it always starts there, but challenging our coaches, our staff, our student athletes, and even our fans to build this thing so that, again, we are, a powerhouse, and that we are a destination place, and that we are, nationally relevant every year. Every other year doesn't work for me. And this place can be that, and it should be that. And that's what we're going to continue to fight, scratch, and claw and do every single day. And I think, we're close, and I think we'll get there.
And I'm not trying to kiss up or anything, but I think it is worth mentioning that you guys have gone the Sailor Bear route, and I don't think that was originally necessarily in the plans. But like you said, you pivoted before, so just good to know that, and good that people have an answer. So I do appreciate that.
Well,
Mack,
I appreciate the question.
Mack, when the surge began about Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, with the fan base trying to come up with something, and I don't know how it started. Maybe it was on social media, whatever. We even started getting people saying things to us. There was a plan, I think, in place that you guys were going to honor veterans, the military, and first responders, and that was a part of it. But I don't know if I ever really saw that. What was the thought in the middle of the week when you saw this surge of what people wanted to do? Was there what was that like, the decision making? Was it like trying to maybe, no, we have to do it our way? Or was there eventually, damn it, we just need to make sure we sell out the stadium. Let's go.
Oh, I think, transparently, the conversation was, and I can't remember what morning it was. I think it was, some of that started to gain momentum in terms of the blackout, maybe Tuesday night, because I was actually texting, quite frankly, with a donor, and talking about it until about 10 p.m. and then some others. And so I think it was Tuesday night. And then, Wednesday morning, it's, let's go. If this means as much as it seems to mean, and, and there's some momentum behind it and people are excited about it, let's go. That's what it takes to sell it out. Then let's go. If that in the moment, that particular moment, and that got everybody excited. So, there wasn't a whole lot of hesitation, or, I think, if people want to wear, certainly not. I think the conversation actually was, as long as it's not purple, let's go. Let's just get it, sold out at capacity, and make this a really, really difficult environment for Kansas State.
You have an older fan base, and of course you have this youth infusion of the students as the student body and enrollment gets larger. Paul brought this up to me earlier this week, or earlier today. Is there a kind of a, Dave Aranda used that tug of war when it comes to his team getting ready for games each week. Is there a tug of war between the new infusion of diehard fans who's ready to go compared to the older, maybe, I don't know, Paul, you used the word subdued fan base, because they're also ones that put a lot of money inside of a lot of things with their names on buildings? Is there a tug of war there in a way?
That's a great question, because I think it's something that, not just Baylor, but I think everybody nationally, it's a conversation that, Commissioner Yormark and I've had in terms of, the Big 12 brand and being cool and hip. And, how do you do that without, disenfranchising your core fans, and compromising them. And so, I think that's always a conversation and trying to find that right balance. It certainly is a conversation for us. We've got this core and making sure that we continue to resonate with them. But at the same time, right, we've got to be able to attract new and infuse some different ideas and maybe even some non-traditional things. And so I think that's always a conversation and discussion and, trying to thread that needle. And I think you can do both. I really do. And I think, that's what we try to do all the time is find that right balance. And again, I get it. Some people, could argue we don't do it enough, or some people, well, we're getting too non-traditional. And so there's always that tug and pull as you mentioned. But again, I think there's a way to do both, and that's going to always remain our challenge.
Shouldn't the game itself last week, and then I'll move on to this week, and Craig and Paul have theirs as well, a chance to stay alive in the Big 12 championship race, the first night game in 2 years, shouldn't that alone be enough with what has been accomplished the last 10 or 12 years to get people excited no matter what color uniforms they wear or anything else?
I think that's a really good question. And, we live in a day and age and we deal with it, every day with our young people and just all of the distractions and the different things that are going on now. And, you see it across the country. And so, the simple, easy, answer is yes, you would think so. But, I think as we continue to evolve, and I think that's a really key word as we as an athletic department continue to evolve, as our fan bases, our particular fan base, the Baylor family continues to evolve. We're always going to have to check that pulse. And, again, you'd like to think that, that's the case. You think about some places like Nebraska, how many consecutive sellouts, and they haven't won as many games as what they've had in the past and all of that. And, and so, that's the fight that, we want our fans out here no matter who we play. And certainly, look, I absolutely 100% agree. I think winning games is a big part of it. We need to have a great product and for us, it's obviously much deeper than just the product. It's the process. It's how we develop our young people. So, hey, we got to do our part. And here's what I'll say. Quite frankly, we didn't, when we look at, how we performed, we didn't do our part on Saturday, but we'll get better. And I've got great faith and confidence in Coach Aranda. His names aren't coming up in all of these searches that are going on right now for nothing, right? His name is coming up because people know how good of a leader he is and how good of a football coach he is.
So, Mack, there is more to play for. There's more games. There's your big home finale coming up this Saturday. And, not only is it a, 11 a.m. kickoff and, should be nice weather and all that, it's the unbeaten TCU Horned Frogs, an arch rival who's kind of had their way with this rivalry the last few years, but also Big Noon Kickoff is coming to town as well. I think I was reading the second time for them in history, and I know that show hadn't been around for forever, but I think just like the fifth time maybe in Baylor history between Big Noon and Game Day having visited over the last few years. So how big of an opportunity is this? And do you think it comes at a right time when you've got all this other stuff in the work, or is that, outside noise again that the team has to be careful with?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It is. And you mentioned, you think about ESPN Game Day here in 2019, and then obviously 20, the COVID year, but then last year, big noon kickoff here, and then again, back to back. And so, what that does say is that, Fox really values, Baylor University, and, I think that's, values our football program, values our people, values our fan base. I think if you ask the Fox people, we treat them as well, and that's everybody. That's our fans. That's our staff. That's our coaching staff. Right? Everybody treats them exceptionally well, and so they feel good about it. Obviously, TCU and being undefeated and CFP is a big part of it. As well. And, they believe that this is going to be a great matchup. And so do I. I think it's when we think about, future scheduling, with 14 teams and then with 12 teams and not playing, everybody, every year anymore, like we can do now with just 10, I think it's safe to say that we'll play TCU every year because that's a rivalry that means something, to both programs, and it means something to both fan bases. So this is a really big game and an exciting game, and what a great opportunity for our football program and for our university and everybody to be on national display again. When we think about, Fox big noon Saturday, big noon kickoff here at McLean Stadium.
As an athletic director, you can't maybe go as deep as a run-of-the-mill fan, but how deep do you get into the rivalry? Because, Baylor, this is probably the biggest rival now, especially with Texas leaving the conference. There's not really one that you could say is on equal footing of it, but you as an athletic director and administration, do you guys get up for the rivalry games a little bit more?
I do appreciate that question, and I'm trying to think about it as you were asking it, right? I would say yes. I've got great respect for TCU and their athletic director. Jeremiah is a dear friend, and we talk. Not maybe every week, but we certainly have a friendship and mutual respect for one another, and their chancellor. And so, yeah, I would say that, on Saturday, I'm not making any friendly phone calls to Jeremiah, and his food may be cold and the sweet. So
cold nachos.
Yeah. But yeah, I do, I think I can say, our staff gets up for it. I know I do, because it is. And, there's the in-state rivalries mean something. And you think about recruiting and bragging rights and all of that stuff. And, that's to me the beauty of college football. That's the piece. It's, it's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And that's probably, highlighted even more when you play one of your rivals.
Mack, as someone who's leading an entire athletic department, and I know Dr. Livingstone is the president, you have to make decisions that are not always going to make maybe even more than the majority happy. When did you get to a point in your career when you realized you would have to do things, whether it's tailgating or whether it's uniforms or whether it's whatever, where you did not allow the emotions to get in the way?
I appreciate that question. I think that's the way I was taught growing up. And then, beyond my parents, people that I really respected as leaders. You've heard me say this, there's no one person bigger than this institution, than this program. And think if you start to make decisions based on what makes you look good and filter things that way, or what makes most of the people happy, right? I think you quickly get off the tracks. And I think it's always about, what is the best decision for our organization, for our program, and what moves us forward the best way. And that's not always the popular decision. And so, but I've never worried about, and this is just me, I've never worried about making the popular decision. I've always worried about making the best decision. And that's got to be, about our organization and the whole. And, it's worked up to this point in time. And, I think that's the way you lead. And that's the way I'll continue to lead. I'll always worry about what is the best decision.
Do you feel like the Office of Fan Engagement is getting to a point now where you almost have to have it grow, even not like the NIL, because that came out of nowhere? Do you feel like that is something that you as a group need to kind of get back into the roots of Waco? Because there's been kind of a love-hate relationship with Baylor and the city of Waco. There mainly was A&M in Texas, if you see. But now you see a lot of Baylor, and then all of a sudden it kind of comes and goes. Do you feel like you might even need more due diligence with fan engagement within the city of Waco to bring that group into McLean or to the new pavilion or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that's an area that I think we've evolved in, and I think that we need to, quite frankly, continue to evolve in. I think we've got some really talented and good people there, and I think we've made some progress there, and we need to continue to make more. And so if we stay stagnant, we're never going to get where we want to be. And so that's certainly a growing area and opportunity for us to continue to grow. I think about, some of the conversations that we have internally and some of the things and how we're trying to evolve. It's like, for instance, and you've heard me say this, it's not about what we have, it's about who we are. Well, how do we do that? How do we communicate, the who we are? And, we've got to double down in areas of creative services and social media content and the fan engagement piece. And, Javon does a great job of leading that area. And it's a challenge when you think about budgets and you think about all of the NCAA deregulation, and I'll give you an example, the whole Alston case, the Alston versus NCAA, and now, providing this $5,980, per student athlete. Well, we're one of 5 in the Big 12 that's going to do that and provide that amount, not just for our full scholarship student athletes, but for our equivalent scholarship student athletes. Well, that's a real cost. That's $2.2 million per year. That was new to our budget this year. And so you're always trying to manage that, and you're trying to, when you think about it, you're trying to invest in the areas that have the ability to provide the best return on an investment. So we're focused on the fan engagement area. We're focused on the creative services area. It's a continued conversation, and we're going to continue to grow and evolve. And there's a lot of opportunity there for us.
Do you feel like Virginia's going to be in the mindset for that game to happen in Vegas later in the week in basketball?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because what happened there is so tragic. And, we obviously, if you're in this business long enough, you get to know quite a few people, and this is a small industry. And, I hate it for Virginia. I hate it for Carla. I hate it for just, Tony. I hate it just that entire Virginia family. And, I don't know how how it impacts, the game, the game Friday. But there's no doubt, it will be on our minds, and I'm sure it's on the men's basketball team's minds, and just, when stuff like that happens, it's about brotherhood, sisterhood, friendship, love, trying to support any way you can. And, they'll remain, in our prayers and our thoughts. And, man, I can't even imagine the parents, in those families, what they're going through. So, we'll continue to pray for them, and that God wraps them all up in his arms, and just loves up on them, and provides them as peace and understanding, and that they can feel that.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on Tuesday, every Tuesday.